Happy New Year, 2025. I don't know about you. My brain is going, 2025. Isn't it like when the Jetsons were around? I don't know. But we're going to celebrate because it's a new year. So I have a glass, I have a bottle. It's sparkling water. After a week in Paris and a month of holiday celebrations and Happy New Year's, it's time to hydrate a little bit more. And there's no shame in taking a little bit of time and drinking what makes you feel better. And you can cheers and toast with water just as well as with anything else. And if anyone tells you otherwise, tell them to get their own life, right? Happy New Year, new beginnings. I had a discussion of that. I don't know if you've seen all these people who are saying, what's this with I have to change myself and be somebody different in the new year? Hey, maybe you just want to refine what you already be a better version of yourself, or not even that. And someone had said, why do I have to be a better version of myself? I'm pretty good already. If you're making a better choice, if you're choosing to be the same old you, either way, I applaud you for making the decision that is best for you. Let's try that one again. Whatever you choose, I applaud you for making the decision that is best for you. And if that means you're going to have a dry January, you go for it. That means you're going to do a fitness challenge, you go for it. You do you, whatever that means. So I've been thinking a lot about this in terms of rebirth. And recently I was listening to an interview that I gave to somebody, and they asked me about the fact that on my website, I called myself a Renaissance woman. And I chose that term because I am. But you can think about it. Michelangelo pursued multiple disciplines, did a lot of different things. He was in the arts and the sciences. He did multiple different types of arts. And nobody said, whoa, dude, pick a lane. Are you a sculptor or are you a scientist? No, he was the ultimate Renaissance man. So why should any of us be defined in a box that somebody wants to put us into? Just say Renaissance. If I say that word, what comes into your mind? Now, I have a lot of friends who work Renaissance festivals. So often my brain goes to people dressing up and eating turkey legs and going to jousting matches. That's one version of Renaissance. But the Renaissance actually was an historical era. When it's spelled with the capital R, that means the era of the Renaissance. That term wasn't used when people were going through the Renaissance in the 14th, 15th century. It was somewhere in the 16th century, I believe, that a historian coined the term the Renaissance era. Now, why is this an important period of time? And why am I bothering to talk about it? Just so we have some historical context. If you think about your European history, we'd had this great Roman Empire, not necessarily great for everybody, but they had taken advances in science and technology, granted Stone Age compared to what we have now. But for that time, it was a very advanced civilization in both the arts and the sciences and the understanding of so many things. But that society collapsed. And Europe was plunged into what is largely called the Dark Ages, which, depending on which history you read, has different start and end dates. And during that Dark Ages, there was a great plague, the bubonic plague, the black plague, whatever you choose to call it. There were a couple different names. That is the origin of that lovely nursery rhyme, which children sing on playgrounds when I was little, and I don't know if they sing it anymore. It was far creepier than you'd think it would be. Bring around the rosies, a pocket full of posies, and ashes we all fall down. That was actually the symptoms of the bubonic plague. Bringing around the rosies was a flesh blemish that you got that was rose colored. Pocket full of posies, you actually smelled posies. That was an interesting. On the Dark Ages, smelling posies wouldn't sound like a bad thing. It sounds like a pretty stinky, nasty time. But anyway, yeah, ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies, ashes. We all fall down. Everybody's dying. Death is rampant. Wouldn't be until later they discovered it was the rats that were spreading it, and the filth was contributing to that contagion. Okay, so back to the Renaissance. As the plague ended and humankind, European humankind, emerged from it, we started to have all these advances in arts and sciences and rediscovery and emerged. And there were people like Michelangelo, and other artists and scientists that were leaping forward in terms of what we knew at that point in history. So that was the Renaissance. Now, something else you need to know, Renaissance with a small r actually has a French origin, renaissance, which is to be reborn. So our society was being reborn out of the darkness of the Dark Ages between the Roman Empire and the Renaissance. What if we are being reborn right now? We just had a big plague. 2020 reset our normal. How many friends have you had conversations with when you go, whoa, it's 2025. It's been almost 5 years since the world shut down for COVID. And everybody talks about how their lives changed as a result of COVID. This is a seminal moment that the globe shared. We haven't had a moment like that in a very long time. So here we are, post plague. Is this a new renaissance? We just were told generation beta is our new wave of children being born right now. And it'll be the first generation to live entirely in the life of AI. Whereas my generation before me, generations a little bit after me, Gen Boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, some of us are still going, I don't trust this AI. We talked about this before. We were programmed to not trust. So last night I was watching an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Now, this episode was made somewhere in the late 50s, and it was set in the distant, so rich future, 1965. Nobody opened doors. There were automatic doors all through the houses. They had water and orange juice on tap. No, it was coffee, water, and orange juice on tap, which seemed a little odd to me. I don't want my coffee on tap, but that's an aside. The gentleman who was the main character in the story was growing wary of his wife and wanted to have the ability to sneak out of the house whenever he wanted to, and even take a little vacation down to Rio without his wife being any wiser. And he contracted a firm called Marionettes that would make an exact duplicate of himself that would entertain his wife and make her not feel jealous. At the risk of the fact that you might go back and find this episode, and I'm going to spoil the ending for you. So if you are planning on going, go watch it and come back and watch the rest of my episode. The marionette who was doing a lot of the work for our protagonist really liked the wife and thought that the human wasn't treating her very nicely at all. And after a little bit, he refused to go back into his box. He refused to be subservient, and he actually rebelled against his manufacturer, or not his manufacturer, but the gentleman whom he was supposed to be helping. Said, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. This is why my generation does not trust technology, because technology has a mind of its own. How many things have you thought? I just had the repairman leave after fixing my washer. And of course, as soon as he pulled away, it started to malfunction again. Really? Anyway, so me and technology, we're not on good terms right now. So that aside, our generation distrusts this technology. The generation being born right now won't know anything different. Just like my parents came into a world where aviation travel was only for adventurers like Lindbergh, but in their lifetime, it became normal. And now we have to think about if we're going to drive somewhere. It's just as quick to fly. I can be in New York in 5 hours. Why would I drive for a few days across the country when I could fly to New York and be there in 5 hours, right? This is how our world is changing. And these are the challenges for us as we mature to have the world change on us. And we need to be Renaissance people. We need to be people learning new things. We need to be people looking at these new technologies and maybe suggesting changes. Maybe instead of rejecting it, we need to embrace it enough that we understand and help guide it so that it is less destructive. So here we are in 2025. Is it time for a rebirth in your life? I'm not saying get rid of everything that's been going on prior to this, but maybe you need to rebirth your spirit. And what does that look like for you? Is that a getaway? Is that a day where you take a notebook and a glass of whatever you like to enjoy, or an entire thermos of whatever you like to enjoy, and curl up? I've heard a lot of interesting such resolutions as people's plans for the new year, incorporating journaling every day or reading every day, expanding the mind in ways that we've gotten lazy about. Have you gotten lazy? Is it time for you to exercise your brain and your body? Is it time for you to reflect on where we go from? I'm going on this journey with you. I told you at the very beginning, life is a roller coaster. There are ups, there are downs. Sometimes you need to hold on. Sometimes you need to scream, Jane, get me off this crazy thing. Yeah, we're back to the Jetsons again. Sorry. Also, sometimes you have to say, okay, I'm here. What am I supposed to learn? And what's next? And it's not easy as we're aging. When you're younger and you fall down, you fell down. It's not a big deal. You get up, you make sure everything's still working. If you got a cut, got a bruise, you clean it up, you bandage it, you move on. If you broke something, you go to the ER, bandage it up, and you move on. But if we get older, we start to question, oh my gosh, is this where I'm losing my abilities? Yeah. One day while we were in Paris, I went back to Paris again, but there's a lot of stories to tell. We were walking as much as we were walking. There was one day we did over 27,000 steps. Actually, there were 2 days we did over 27,000 steps. We were regularly doing over 20,000 steps a day. The streets were wet, uneven surfaces. The pavement isn't always even. There's often cobblestones, all sorts of hazards. So tripping, that happens. Slipping, that happens. Happened to both of us. And my daughter's only 29 years old. But there was one evening, we're walking along. The next thing I know, my feet aren't under me anymore. I'm heading towards the pavement, right arm out. Kind of hurt. Thankfully, I was wearing gloves because it's cold. And so my hand didn't get bruised, but it was a little sore. And I hit my shoulder. And mercifully, I didn't hit my head, and I fell on the sidewalk just shy of the street, so I wasn't in the path of the way those crazy French drivers. A little bit bruised, nothing that shows. But there is that part of my brain that says, oh my God, am I getting old? Is this my future? Can I be trusted to be out alone? Wait, stop. I fell down when I was a teenager. Why am I beating myself up because I fell down once in an entire week in Paris? This doesn't mean you're getting old. It means maybe there's a magical trickster out there that jumped up and was messing with me. Paris is a magical city, so tricksters, I'll believe in it. Just a thought. That happens. And on New Year's Eve, I realized I hadn't yet used my vision credit. When you get certain things from your health insurance provider that are only good for a calendar year. So I went and got my last eye exam of the year on December 31st and ordered a new pair of glasses so I could use the benefit I have to get a new pair of glasses. But the optometrist noticed I had the first signs of a cataract. I did not like hearing this because old people get cataracts, right? And she said, no, they grow very slowly. It's something to monitor. It's something to be aware of. And at some point, we will need to address this. So I just want you to be aware. But I have to admit, there's a little part of me going, no. Just like the wrinkles, everybody gets, I'm trying not to get those either. I don't know what you're talking about. So being a Renaissance woman, I don't want it to be my thing. I want it to be our. I want us all to come out of these dark ages. And I'm not going to get into the politics of why some people might consider this a particularly dark age right now. I'm just going to talk about we're post COVID. We're in an era of change. Some people are really afraid. Some people are really excited. This is a new renaissance. This is a new opportunity for us to form a new future, and we can do it together. So I may call myself a Renaissance woman, but I really want us to have a Renaissance for all humankind, actually. But we've heard the phrase Renaissance man, at least I have, for most of my life. Renaissance man. So let's claim this as the era of the Renaissance woman. We are going to change the world. And it may be in our work lives, it may be in our volunteer lives, it may be the way we influence our children or the young people that we help. I have children that I gave birth to. I have children that I got through marriage. And I have young people in my life who we've just adopted on the way, whether they be the baseball sons that lived with us or the young people that I model with. And I get to share what I've learned and help them avoid some of my mistakes. They get to make their own new mistakes on their own. So parenting isn't just for people who have created children in their womb. You heard me. Parenting is not just for people who have created children in their womb. There are people out there who have given birth and are not parents. And there are people out there who never had a child, never lived with a child in their home, but they are role models and they are parenting in our society. So this is our renaissance. As women, we have more access to finances and healthcare than we ever did in the past. I know some are jeopardized right now. And there's a lot of debates about that. Bitching about it isn't going to accomplish anything. Get out there and tell your legislators, tell your senators, tell all the people out there why it matters to you that they make better choices. Because guess what? In politics, sometimes it's the money that gets attention, but it's also the squeaky wheel. And if you can be loud enough, you can make change. I think I told you early on in this podcast about a time when our beloved baseball park in Burlington, Vermont was in danger of being shuttered. And if the baseball team left, the odds of that facility being preserved as a baseball park were very small. The bleachers were historical. Well, I believe that or not, but that's the case. So they would have to find a way to incorporate those bleachers into any future renovations, but nothing mandated in that historical preservation that it had to be a baseball park. Yeah, loopholes. And if the administration of the university that owned that land at that point in time, and still owns that land, but gave a long-term lease to the baseball team, had gotten their way, they have no doubt there would be bleachers and some sort of public theater next to a dorm or a parking garage instead of a baseball. I didn't want to see that happen. And before you think I went and paid a lot of money to people, no, I started a petition campaign and I started a media campaign and I reached out to every local news station. I was interviewed by every single local news station. I became the face of the ball. I became the face of the team. Guess what? Before I ever had to present that petition, which I was planning to present to our senators and our legislators and the governor and the mayor and all that, before I even do that, the university realized that they had a public sentiment that would make them very unpopular if they didn't see things my way. No, okay, yeah, it was see things my way, but my way was for the public good. And eventually they relented and gave a long-term lease to the ball team that then make the capital improvements that needed to happen for Major League Baseball to allow baseball to continue in that particular minor league baseball. But this is a renaissance. This is a woman, something above an entrepreneur, which I know entrepreneur's been a really big buzzword lately. Everybody's starting their own business. They're doing their own thing. They're doing their own thing. They don't have to work for the boss. Guess what? You can be that spirit, that renaissance spirit in volunteer work, in a corporate job, in your educational system, wherever you happen to be. You can create better thought processes. You can challenge the status. You can ask these questions. Why do we do it that way? Or why should we do it that way? And help things get better. So I encourage you all to make this a new renaissance, especially for women, because we need more renaissance women. I'm so tired of hearing the renaissance man. Yep, Michelangelo is great, whatever. But let's have some renaissance women out there. So welcome to 2025. A new renaissance is beginning, and I want you to be part of it. So think creatively. Join me in making this a better world. Happy New Year. Until next week, have a wonderful week. Seek wonder in everything. And I can't wait to talk to you. Please log into my social media. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're struggling with. Maybe we can build a community that helps support what you want to build. I don't know. There's great power in people working together. And I will never question that after doing that petition campaign. So until next week, have a new renaissance. Have a wonderful day. Stay hydrated, and we'll talk to you soon.